But I have said, and I say it again, that white people are not prepared to share power with anyone. White people can't share power even with themselves. There is no historicity. There is no precedent in life. There is no precedent in history. There is no precedent in paleontology. There is no precedent in sociology where white people have shared power with themselves. They don't even share power with their children. They don't even share power with their wives. That is why you have divorce rate fantastic in all these countries. They don't even want to share power with members of opposite sex. So how are they going to share power with African people in the continent? How are they going to share power with people whom they call weak? How are they going to share power with people whom they call poor? How are they going to share power with this? This is ridiculous. It is as ridiculous as it gets if you sit in your sitting room and think that this is a global village. It is as ridiculous as it gets if you sit in your thinking room and you think that there is such a thing as international community and that your opinion will count and that your peer. Most of the time people come to me and they say, you know what, we are really one global village. Why do we have to fight for black race? Why do we have to fight for Africans? Let's fight for everyone. And I'm saying, you haven't even united with your own wife. You haven't even united with your own family. You haven't even united with your own nation, with your own clan. You haven't even united as a country. And now you are thinking of uniting the entire world. Charity begins at home. First, unite your world. But look at what is happening around the world. Look at what is happening between Europe and Russia. Europe and Russia are at loggerheads. Europe and America. Of course, Europe is a satellite of America. All these are satellite nations. Europe was colonized by America because Europeans, when they have power, they use it for one thing and one thing alone, subjugation. Any nation in Europe that has power uses it for one thing and one thing alone, and that is subjugation. Subjugation, colonization, domination. That is the principle of European leadership, the principle of European power, power projection. That is the principle of European power governance. Subjugation, domination, colonization, and all kinds of Asian. So, there are times when these nations have come together for a short time, but even when they come together for a short time, they can't agree. During the Crimean War, Russia was fighting France and Britain and other countries. But as soon as they came out of the Crimean War, they went into another war, into the European War. And then these powers found themselves on different sides. But look at the Second European War. Now, the Second European War, what you call a world war, Russia was fighting on the same side as America and Britain and France. France didn't fight. France was a coward. France ran away and went to Africa and got Africans from Senegal and got Africans from Cameroon and got Africans from Ivory Coast, and took them to fight their war against the Nazis. And after that war, of course, France brought back all these people, put them in Africa, in one concentration camp and killed most of them, or killed them all. But Russia and the Soviet Union at the time were fighting. Russia was fighting on the same side. But even when they were fighting on the same side, they were both competing to get to Berlin so that they can take over Germany. They can take over that nation which Hitler was doing. Look at what Hitler was doing. Hitler got power, Germany got power, it got economic power, it got military power. And what did they want to use it for? Domination. They wanted to use it to dominate. Not only to dominate the whole world, but they started by wanting to dominate their own people. They first dominate weak nations. Then after dominating weak nations, they project themselves on other nations. But when white people have power, the only reason they want that power is to dominate others. They use it for domination. They use it for subjugation. So when Russia was fighting on the same side as America, they tried to get to Berlin. They wanted to get it there first. Russia, got there, and America almost got there at the same time. And what did they do? They divided Germany. One part of Germany went to Russia, another part of Germany went to America. until recently. I believe it was 1991, when the Soviet Union began to crumble, and then they grabbed these countries, and then they promised each other, you know what, we are going to share power, we are not going to fight each other, we are going to live together. They pretended to be friends because Russia was weak. And then America started. It wanted to gobble up most of Russia. It took, most of the countries of, the former Soviet Union and put them in their realm. And when Russia started rising again, then what happens? All this weak talk, all this soft talk, all this sweet talking. No. Now America wants to gobble Russia. America wants to gobble all these countries of Europe. It already gobbled them up. Most of these nations like Germany and France and Italy and Denmark and Holland and Britain, they are subject states. They are not independent states. They are client states. They are sycophantic states. Sycophantic states. Whatever America says, is yes, sir, yes, master, yes, boss, yes, sir. If America says, Russia shot down this plane, they say yes, sir. If they say Russia is guilty, yes, sir. Let us impose sanctions on this country, yes, sir. Let us go to war. The following day, it's like an orchestra. America leads whatever it wants to do. And what does America wants to do? To dominate the whole world. How does it dominate the whole world? By the military. Go into this world, bomb it into Stone Age, begin by saying this country is a dictator, then say they're shooting their own people, then say they have no democracy, get the United Nations to get some paperwork, and then indict the leader with the ICC, which ICC is, of course, now the new Seychelles, because at the time when they were colonizing all these countries in Africa, they would take the leader and hold him in some island. That's how Kabaka Mwanga got in Seychelles. That's how Kabalega got in Seychelles. That's how Ya Asantewa got in Seychelles. That's how Chetwayo Kampande Zulu got in Seychelles. All these African leaders were taken to Seychelles. The new Seychelles is now the ICC. But what has Russia done? Russia has sought to say, you know what? No, we're not going to be slaves to the United States of America. We're not going to be slaves at all. And besides, we've got some money. We've got more money than America. What's going to happen? China has also broken away and said, no, except these states are still hostages to trade and finance, because they didn't understand at the beginning fractional reserve banking and phantom deposits. Now they do. That is why Russia has withdrawn most of its money from America. That is why Russia is not using the dollar as a reserve currency. It is moving away from using the dollar as reserve currency, or the payments will be made in ruble. Remember, I have said to you, you are not an economist. You are not a politician until you understand the concept of fractional reserve banking. If you understand fractional reserve banking, if you understand phantom deposits, then you can put your hand up and say, I am an economist. But until that time, you are not. You are not an economist. You are not a leader. You are not a politician until you understand fractional reserve banking. I am putting my finger on these two things, fractional reserve banking and phantom deposit. Understand phantom deposit. Understand fractional reserve banking. So, because Russia has withdrawn its money from the dollar, because Russia wants to trade in ruble, because the giant Russian company, Gazprom, wants to sell gas and oil, so oil and gas, to Europe in rubles and not dollars. And because the dollar is not backed by anything other than American guns, America is scared. So it wants to put sanctions on Russia, so that it wants to collapse Russian economy so that it can come and gobble up Russia and take off most of Asia. But what has Russia and China and India and South Africa and Brazil have set up an international bank, an alternative bank to the World Bank and the IMF. This bank will start in 2016, and this bank has been given reserves of $100 billion, and another reserves to stabilize the currencies of both nations. And these nations have agreed to cooperate between themselves so they don't use the dollar as a reserve currency. And that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. First, you withdraw, your reserves from the dollar, and then you set up an alternative bank, and then you capitalize that bank. So you want to take our bread, you want to take our resources, you want to take the only thing that we depend on, this paper with graphics called the American dollar.